Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We have got an absolute monster of a topic on the table today. Usually when we look at the news or scan through industry reports, we tend to look at problems in isolation.
One thing at a time.
Exactly. We look at a cyber attack over here, maybe a supply chain snag over there, perhaps a weird weather event in the Southern Hemisphere. We treat them like separate incidents.
Right.
But that is not really how the world works anymore, is it?
Not at all.
We are seeing these things tangled together in a way that is, frankly, a little terrifying. Politics crashes the economy, which hits the environment, which then takes down the IT system.
You are describing the polycrisis. That is the term the industry had settled on, and frankly, it is the perfect descriptor.
Polycrisis.
Yeah. We aren't dealing with single-point failures anymore. We are dealing with a web of instability where everything pulls on everything else. If you pull a thread in geopolitics, the whole sweater unravels in cybersecurity.
Exactly. And to help us navigate this web, to help us untangle this mess, we are tearing into a really substantial piece of work today. We're looking at the DRI International 11th Annual Global Risk and Resilience Trends Report. Now, for the listener who might not be in the industry, I want to be clear, DRI isn't just another think tank pumping out white papers for the sake of it.
No, not at all. They are the oldest and largest nonprofit for resilience professionals in the world.
And that distinction is vital.
It's everything. The data we are looking at today, which was published here in early 2026, looking back at the chaos of 2025, isn't academic theory.
Right.
It is not people sitting in an ivory tower guessing what might happen. It is coming from the people on the ground.
The practitioners.
The people whose actual job is to keep the lights on, the servers running, and the supply chains moving when the world, catches fire.
So let's set the scene. It is February 2026.
Right.
We're looking back at a year that saw record heat, shifting geopolitical alliances, and massive, truly massive technological disruption.
A busy year.
A very busy year. And our mission today is to act as your instructors. We aren't just going to chat. We are going to teach. We are going to walk through this document exactly as it lays out the world, starting from the high-level executive summary and drilling all the way down to the nitty-gritty.
All the way down.
All the way down to why your cybersecurity team and your business continuity team probably aren't speaking the same language.
It is a journey from the strategic view down to the tactical reality. And honestly, the best place to start is right at the top with the executive summary. This analysis comes from their Future Vision Committee, or FVC. They surveyed professionals globally to build what they call a risk index.
What I found immediately useful was how they split this index. They didn't just give us one big scary list of bad things.
Right, they broke it down.
They broke it into two very distinct categories. Current resilience concerns, basically the stuff keeping managers awake tonight.
The right now stuff.
And strategic risks, which is the stuff that might put them out of business in 5 years.
A really important distinction.
So let's look at the right now list first. What is the big headline here?
The headline is consistency, but with a sting in the tail. The number one risk, by a massive margin, is cyber events.
No surprise there.
Not at all. We are talking ransomware, data theft, denial of service. It is the perennial champion of anxiety. It has been at the top for years, and it is not moving.
And number two?
Number two is IT disruptions. So system failures that aren't necessarily an attack, just things breaking.
Oh, right. Patches failing, clouds going down.
Exactly.
So basically, the computers aren't working, takes the gold and silver medals. If you are running a company in 2025, your biggest fear was simply that the technology stack would collapse.
That's it in a nutshell. But look at number three, financial conditions. The economy is still a major stressor.
Okay.
And then number four is natural disasters. Now, this is a shift.
A shift how?
In previous years, nature often outranked money. But in 2025, the financial pressure, inflation, interest rates, market volatility, was slightly more acute for the average organization than the environmental pressure.
That is interesting. So the wallet was hurting a bit more than the weather.
Slightly. And rounding out the top five is human resource issues.
HR issues. Are we talking about workplace drama, people stealing lunches from the fridge?
I wish. No, we are talking about the labor market, hiring, retaining talent, and specifically the skills gap. Finding the right people to run these complex systems is becoming a critical failure point. But hold that thought, because when we get to the AI section later in the show, that HR point gets much, much darker.
Okay, so that is the current list. Cyber, IT, money, weather, people. That feels very operational. It feels like a Tuesday. But then the report flips to the strategic horizon, the next 5 years.
Yeah.
This list felt completely different to me.
Yeah.
It felt existential.
It is. The #1 strategic risk for the next 5 years is the uncontrolled or unregulated use of artificial intelligence.
Wow.
It is the fear of the unknown.
Which is interesting because usually tech is seen as the solution. In the current list, tech failure is the problem.
Right.
But in the strategic list, the tech itself is the threat.
It is the genie out of the bottle problem. We
Yeah.
have released something we don't fully understand.
And what else is on that list?
#2 is a lack of trust in institutions, governments, corporations, financial bodies.
So just a general societal erosion.
Exactly. #3 is changing alliances and geopolitics. #4 is ecosystem tipping points. So not just a storm, but irreversible climate change.
And number 5.
A lack of natural resources.
So for the listener, the distinction here is crucial. The current list is my server is down. The strategic list is does society trust the government enough to function?
Or do we have enough water?
Right.
Precisely. The current list is what you put in your quarterly report. The strategic list is what you discuss at the board retreat when you were trying to figure out if your company will even exist in 2030.
The current list is about survival.
And the strategic list is about relevance and existence.
Okay, let's move into section 2 of the report, the 2025 overview. The premise here is that the world has become riskier and less predictable. They use the phrase uncertainty breeds unexpected outcomes.
And they highlight a few specific areas where this instability is really playing out. The first one, and it is a big one, is supply chains and globalization.
This is a fascinating reality check.
Mm-hmm.
Think back to 2020. We had the pandemic, supply chains broke, and everyone said, never again.
Oh, yeah. We talked about decoupling, we talked about onshoring, we talked about bringing manufacturing home.
So did we do it?
Well, the report says, looking at 2025, we are still too embedded to pull out quickly.
Why is that? Is it just cost? Are we just too cheap to move the factories?
It is not just cost, it is infrastructure and labor. The report uses the semiconductor shortage of 2020-2022 as the prime example to illustrate this stickiness.
Okay.
Back then, Taiwan provided 92% of the most advanced logic semiconductors.
92%. That's a terrifying concentration of risk.
It is.
If that island goes offline, the world goes offline.
It is, and despite all the talk of building fabrication plants in the US or Europe, looking back from 2025, Taiwan continues to be the primary global supplier.
Still,
the report explicitly notes that replicating that manufacturing environment in the US is stalling.
Stalling why?
Yeah.
We have the money, we have the blueprints, we passed the CHIP ES Act.
But we don't have the labor environment. The report points to labor rights and labor costs. Emulating the Taiwanese manufacturing environment, the shifts, the intensity, the specific engineering culture, the cost structure in a Western context is proving incredibly expensive and difficult.
So you can't just copy-paste a factory.
You have to copy-paste an ecosystem. And we can't. So the risk remains. We are still dangerously poised.
That is a key insight. You can move the machine, but you can't necessarily move the ecosystem that runs the machine. Speaking of being dangerously poised, the report moves on to resources and trade. It says the world is struggling with the distribution of oil, gas, and rare earth metals.
And this connects directly to the geopolitical tension. We are seeing a world where tariffs dominate and resources are not distributed equitably. If you are a resilience professional in 2026, you cannot just look at your supplier and ask, do you have the stock?
Right.
You have to look at the country your supplier is in. Does that country have access to the rare earth metals needed to make your product? Or are they on the wrong side of a trade war?
It is layers upon layers of complexity. Another layer they mention is social unity. This was a bit depressing to read, honestly.
It's not a happy story.
No. The trend is reduced social unity, polarization, and a lack of empathy.
And they identify a specific driver for this: disinformation. And let's be clear, we aren't just talking about random trolls on the internet or someone's angry uncle on Facebook.
We're talking about something bigger.
Much bigger. We are talking about state-sponsored disinformation campaigns designed to destabilize national politics. It is becoming a standard tool of warfare.
That is a chilling thought. We used to worry about spies stealing plans.
Now we worry about spies stealing the truth.
Which leads us right into the next point. State-sponsored cybercrime. It is no longer just a hacker and a dataman trying to steal credit card numbers.
No, it's governments targeting infrastructure. The scale is completely different. The report cites a specific example: the attack on Jaguar Land Rover in the UK.
That was state-sponsored.
Suspected to be, yes. Now think about that. When you have a nation-state targeting a commercial car manufacturer, the sophistication of the attack is often way beyond what a corporate security team can handle alone.
That is terrifying.
Mhm.
Is there any legislative defense against this? Or are companies just sitting ducks?
The U.S. is responding. The report mentions the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security reintroducing legislation specifically to combat Chinese threats to infrastructure.
They're trying.
They're trying, but the laws are trying to catch up, but the threat is moving very fast. Legislation moves at the speed of bureaucracy. Cyber threats move at the speed of light.
And speaking of fast-moving threats, we have to talk about AI weaponization. The report calls it a duality.
Right. AI is a benefit, sure, but the risks are getting weird. Specifically, deepfakes.
Deepfakes emulating executives.
This is happening now. Imagine getting a video call from your CEO. It looks like them, sounds like them, moves like them.
Okay.
They tell you to transfer $1 million to a new vendor account for a secret project. You do it. But the CEO was never on the call.
It was an AI.
It was an AI.
That changes the whole concept of verification. You can't even trust your eyes or ears anymore.
Exactly. It breaks the fundamental trust mechanism of business communication. And there's a physical cost to AI too, which brings us to energy security.
How so?
AI requires massive power. Data centers are becoming absolute energy hogs.
We are seeing electricity rationing becoming real in places like South Africa, right?
Yes, unplanned blackouts. And this scarcity is shifting the political conversation in a big way. The report notes that nuclear power is back on the political agenda after years of unpopularity.
Really? Nuclear is back.
It's back. The demand for stable baseload power for things like AI is overriding the historical hesitation about nuclear energy.
It is fascinating how it all connects. AI needs power. Power needs nuclear. Nuclear needs political will. Political will is eroded by disinformation.
It really is a polycrisis.
That is the perfect summary. You cannot fix one without touching the others.
And that brings us to part one of the actual survey results, the risk index.
Okay, let's get into the math. How do they actually calculate this risk index? Is it just a gut check?
It is a classic formula, probability multiplied by impact.
Okay.
They ask the professionals 2 questions. How likely is this to happen? And how bad will it be if it does? They multiply those 2 numbers to get a score.
And the rankings tell a pretty clear story about where the anxiety is concentrated.
They do. We have a distinct top tier. CyberEvents has a score of 16.72.
Way out in front.
Way out. IT disruption is at 14.73. Nothing else is even close. They are in a league of their own.
So if you walk into a risk manager's office, their number 1 and number 2 problems are tech.
Correct. Then you have the middle tier. This includes financial conditions, natural disasters, HR issues, power shortages, and reputational issues. These are hovering around the 9 to 12 point range.
And then the low tier. This is where I was surprised. Terrorism and civil unrest are ranked 14 and 15, the very bottom.
This is a major point of contention in the report. The experts analyze this and ask, is this reality or is this likelihood bias?
The define likelihood bias for us.
It is the psychological trap of thinking it hasn't happened here recently, so it won't happen here.
The it can't happen to me problem.
Precisely. The report suggests this ranking might be a warning. Practitioners rate terrorism and civil unrest as unlikely to happen, so they score them low. But the global landscape, the wars, the polarization suggests instability is actually high.
So if professionals think it is unlikely, they might not be preparing for it.
Exactly. And if it does happen, the impact could be catastrophic because they are unready.
That is a classic blind spot. It won't happen to me. There's another anomaly in the data that stood out to me. Climate change. It dropped in the rankings to rank 12 in 2025.
That seems counterintuitive, right? Given everything we know.
It seems crazy. We just said 2025 had extreme weather events.
The report attributes this to recency bias. Remember, 2024 was the hottest year on record due to El Niño. It was in everyone's face.
Okay.
2025 was slightly cooler, so the immediate visceral pressure was off and professionals relaxed a bit.
That is so human. It's not 110 degrees today, so I guess climate change is fixed.
Exactly. It shows how reactive our risk assessment can be. We prioritize what hurt us yesterday.
Speaking of what hurt us yesterday, infectious diseases. Rank 13.
This is pandemic amnesia. We survived COVID-19, and the collective feeling is we beat it, moving on.
Right.
The report calls this overconfidence, but the World Health Organization is tracking new strains, tracking things like the Oropouche virus. The report warns that public health systems need funding, but because the concern is fading in the corporate world, that urgency is lost.
So we're getting complacent on pandemics and climate because the immediate crisis has passed.
Right.
Meanwhile, we are staring at our screens terrified of cyber attacks.
That is the psychological profile of the 2025 risk manager. Focus on the screen, ignore the window.
Let's shift gears back to the strategic risks, the 5-year view, specifically diving deeper into AI and trust. The report had some really specific, really worrying data on AI and the labor market.
This is where the strategic risk becomes very personal. The report highlights a fear of white-collar disruption.
We usually think of automation taking factory jobs, robots building cars.
Right.
But this is different.
Very different. The report cites U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data from July 2025. It shows that unemployment for young college graduates ages 23 to 27 rose from 3.25% in 2019 to 4.59% in 2025.
That's a significant jump. That's the entry-level white-collar workforce.
Exactly. And look at the sectors. The IT sector, which historically has very low unemployment, saw rates rise from about 2% to 3%.
Wow.
And arts, design, and media saw a rise of 1.77 percentage points.
So the coders and the creatives are the ones getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
The people we thought were safe. The people we told, learn to code and you'll always have a job.
Yes, and the concern the report highlights isn't just people losing jobs, although that is bad. It is the loss of institutional knowledge.
What do they mean by that?
If you replace entry-level humans with AI, you stop training the future experts. You break the pipeline of knowledge transfer.
That is a huge long-term risk. You save money today on a junior analyst, but in 10 years you have no senior analysts because nobody learned the ropes.
Precisely. It is a hollowing out of the workforce's capability. You end up with a very senior top layer and an AI bottom layer and nothing in the middle.
And when those seniors retire,
Good luck.
the other strategic risk was trust, specifically around ESG and DEI. I feel like these terms, environmental, social, governance, and diversity, equity, inclusion, have become lightning rods recently.
They have. And the report reflects that. It notes that lack of trust is strategic risk number 2. And part of that is that companies are actually shying away from investment in ESG. And DEI is increasingly viewed as a political issue with knock-on effects for corporate reputation.
So companies are scared to catch it.
They are scared of the backlash. It connects back to that polarization we discussed. If you take a stand, you alienate half your audience. If you don't take a stand, you might alienate the other half.
It creates a paralysis in corporate governance.
It does. It turns what should be a business decision into a political minefield.
This is a perfect segue into Section 5, variations. Because not everyone sees these risks the same way. Geography plays a huge role here.
It does. If you are in North America or Europe, your top risk is cyber. That aligns with the global average.
Okay, standard.
But if you look at Latin America, the top risk is natural disasters.
Which makes sense given the climate vulnerability there.
And interestingly, infectious disease remains high in Latin America, rank 6.
Why so high there?
This is driven by those specific outbreaks we mentioned, like the Oropouche virus and dengue fever scares that hit the region in 2025. They haven't forgotten the pandemic threat because they are living through smaller versions of it right now.
So it's still top of mind for them. What about Asia?
Asia is fascinating. Their top worries are financial conditions. But get this, supply chain disruption is ranked surprisingly low, at rank 15.
Wait, isn't Asia the manufacturing hub of the world? How can they not be worried about supply chains?
Right. That seems like a contradiction.
A huge one.
That is exactly what I asked myself. The report suggests a skew in the data. The respondents from Asia were mostly from the banking and financial services sector, about 60% of them.
So bankers worry about money.
Bankers worry about money. They worry less about shipping containers.
That is a great lesson in data literacy. Always look at who is answering the survey.
Absolutely.
If you ask a banker about risks, they tell you about interest rates. If you asked a factory manager in Shenzhen, I bet supply chain would be number 1.
No question. It highlights the importance of sector-specific analysis. You can't just take the global average as truth. You have to peel back the onion.
Speaking of sectors, the public sector versus commercial split was fascinating too.
The public sector cares much more about terrorism and civil unrest. They are the guardians of public safety, so that makes sense. They care less about money and HR.
And commercial?
Commercial and industrial sectors are the opposite. They care about supply chains and money.
And size matters too. The report used a really specific example to talk about reputational risk for large companies.
Ah, yes. The Bud Light case.
The 2023 Bud Light controversy.
It is cited as a cautionary tale for 2025 and beyond. They misjudged their market, switched an advertising strategy, and alienated their core customer base.
And the impact wasn't just some angry tweets. It was real money.
Huge money. An 11% decline in sales in just 1 month. They lost their market leadership status. The lesson the report draws is that in the age of instant media, reputation damage is financial damage, and it happens at lightning speed. You can lose decades of brand building in a weekend.
It's not just multinationals, though. Small businesses are feeling the heat from regulation.
Yes. Regulation is a huge burden. Multinationals have to deal with global rules, which is complex, but small businesses, they have to follow the rules, but they often lack the resources or the legal teams to navigate them.
So it's a squeeze.
It is a squeeze on the SME market. They are drowning in paperwork designed for giants.
Let's move to Section 6, Part 2 of the report, which focuses on resilience practice. This is the how do we fix it section. First off, there's a bit of a vocabulary lesson here. Business continuity versus resilience. Is this just corporate jargon, or is there a real difference?
It is a real shift in thinking. Business continuity, or BC, is often seen as, what do we do when the building burns down? It is reactive recovery.
It's a checklist.
It's a checklist. Resilience is broader. It is, how do we absorb a shock and keep moving? It's about elasticity, not just recovery. It is proactive.
And the job titles are changing, too, to reflect that.
They are. Many professionals are now reporting to a CRO, a Chief Risk Officer. This elevates the function. It is no longer just an IT subdepartment. It is a board-level concern.
So the person in charge of resilience is sitting at the big table now.
They are.
But are they actually integrated? The report mentions a management gap that seemed pretty wide.
This is the frustration point. The survey shows that only 61.4% of organizations have an integrated approach where departments talk to each other.
Only 61%.
But 86.6% want an integrated approach.
That is a 25% gap. Why is it so hard? Everyone wants it, but they can't do it.
Silos. It's always silos.
Huh.
The cyber team is in one room, the business continuity team is in another, and the disaster recovery team is in a third. They speak different languages, they have different budgets, they have different bosses.
So breaking down those walls is the hardest part of resilience.
It is.
And AI is entering this space too, not just as a risk, but as a tool.
Right. Resilience professionals are starting to use AI for data analytics and scenario design. Imagine using AI to run 1,000 different disaster simulations to find the weak spots in your plan.
That's the promise.
That is the promise, but there is hesitation.
Hesitation?
Trust. Again, professionals are hesitant to trust the AI fully without human review. They don't want to base their emergency response on a hallucination from a chatbot.
Very fair. I wouldn't want my evacuation plan written by a bot that thinks glue belongs on pizza.
Exactly. Human oversight remains critical. You can use it to draft the plan, but a human better sign off on it. We are in a trust but verify phase with AI tools.
Let's do a deep dive into the #1 threat, Section 7.
Where?
The cyber deep dive. We establish it's the top risk, but what does that actually look like on the ground?
The consensus is absolute. Cyber has been top dog for a decade. But the specific fears are telling. The top fear is ransomware.
Of course.
The second is an immediate system shutdown.
And the report gives us a very painful case study. M&S Marks & Spencer in the UK.
This is a classic example of it's not just an IT problem. M&S is a retail giant.
Yeah.
They suffered a cyber incident where their online business was suspended for 46 days.
46 days. That is a lifetime in retail. That's a month and a half of no digital revenue.
It is an eternity. Imagine Amazon shutting down for a month and a half. The estimated loss was 300 million.
300 million pounds. That is staggering.
And the fallout wasn't just money. The chief digital officer left months later.
Wow.
The takeaway here is that a cyber attack isn't just a technical glitch. It is a survival of the business problem. It destroys careers, it destroys balance sheets.
So given that stakes are that high, 300 million high, you would assume the cyber teams and the business continuity teams are best friends,
Yes,
right?
you would assume.
You would assume they were practically married.
You would assume. The data says,
Yeah.
sort of, 77% say they work together. That sounds good.
But there's always a but.
There's a but. But only 54% report to the same C-suite executive.
So in nearly half of companies, the cyber boss and the resilience boss answers to different people.
Exactly. One answers to the CIO, the other to the CRO or COO.
That is where the disconnect happens.
That's it. The report highlights a cultural clash. Cyber teams don't always understand business continuity, which is about keeping the essential business functions running, maybe even manually. They are focused on the code.
And the BC teams.
And BC teams often don't understand the technical nuances of the threat. They're focused on the process.
So the cyber guys are trying to patch the server, and the BC guys are trying to figure out how to ship product without the server.
And they aren't coordinating.
And if they aren't coordinating, the recovery takes longer, and the losses, like that $300 million, get bigger.
Precisely.
That is a sobering thought. We are coming to the end of our deep dive. Let's wrap this up with Section 8, Key Takeaways and Conclusion. The report summarizes 6 main takeaways. Let's run through them quickly.
Takeaway number 1, the big 5 risks are sticky: cyber, IT, financial, nature, and HR.
They aren't going away.
Nope. They are the new normal baseline of stress. You have to build your business assuming these will happen.
Takeaway 2.
Cyber is king. It is the dominant threat, and it requires that closer integration between IT and business leaders that we just talked about.
You cannot leave it to the techies alone.
It is a business problem.
Takeaway 3. Pandemic amnesia.
We are overconfident regarding infectious diseases. We have relaxed too much, and we are vulnerable to the next one because we think we have been there, done that.
Takeaway 4. Supply chain lock-in.
Diversification is slow and expensive. We talked about Taiwan. Onshoring is hard. We are stuck in these global webs for the foreseeable future. We have to manage the dependency, not pretend we can eliminate it.
Takeaway 5. AI's double edge.
It helps productivity, it helps us plan, but it introduces errors, it disrupts the job market for young people, and it creates new vectors for attack like deepfakes. It is a tool and a weapon simultaneously.
And finally, takeaway 6. Culture.
Resilience must flow from the boardroom down. You cannot build a resilient company if the CEO doesn't care. It has to be a cultural mandate. It can't just be a department. It has to be a mindset.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, something the report touches on regarding horizon scanning.
This is the challenge of familiarity bias.
Familiarity bias.
We naturally prioritize what we know. We know cyber. We deal with it every day. But the data shows we are ignoring civil unrest and terrorism because they feel unlikely.
It brings up the question, are we preparing for the next war, or are we just fighting the last one?
That is the ultimate question. If 2025 taught us anything, it is that the unlikely is becoming the daily. If you are only looking at the risks you have seen before, you are missing the one that is going to blindside you.
That is a powerful place to leave it. To our listeners, think about your own risk matrix. What is that high-impact, low-probability event that you were ignoring because it feels too crazy to happen? Maybe it's time to give it a second look.
Absolutely. The goal isn't to be paranoid, it is to be prepared.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We will catch you on the next one. Stay resilient out there.